Hi everyone, welcome to Stereo Niche. I'm Scott Schneider. This week, another receiver, one from the early 70s, the Sansui 881. Stick around. Okay, so the Sansui 881. So this is a series actually that started in 74 and ran through 76. They had a complete model line. Started with the 221 and at the bottom of the line with only 8 watts. And it retailed for, I think it's on the ad, $180 a unit. And then went all the way to the top of the line, which is this 881, and I think it sold, which is also in the ad, at $530 a unit. Which was a pretty good chunk of money back then, because a car, if I recall, was around $3,000. So you could have a good down payment on a car with the cost of the high-end model here. This model line, I think, sort of set Sansui on the map, or the radar, if you will. All of these units, just about anyone I've ever met that has them, raves about their sound. They have a very, as we say, tube-like sound, which just means it's not harsh in any way. It really complements the music, and you just sort of get excited about how pleasant the sound signature is of the music that you're listening to. Now, these are same folks that have higher end receivers that we would call, more collector models that are up in the monster watt range, the G9000s, the SX1250s from Pioneer, etc. Those models, have a high-end collectability, but a lot of people that have both do prefer the sound of these smaller, earlier units. So it says a lot. You won't have the value here as far as investment, as far as collectible dollars, but you get a lot of bang for the buck as far as sound. So a lot of features here, which I'll do in this next segment, but I'll give you some up-close shots now. You can get a nice look at it. It's a clean, very, I'll say, meaningful interface here, because every button on here has a function that's not gimmicky. It's meant for a very good function that you would use, and very straightforward. So take a look at it. right, so let's go through the numbers here. So I give points for different features and functions for these units, and I have a scoring that I use to go along with that, which you'll see here momentarily. So to go back again, these were released in 74 and ran through the 76 model year. The 881 is retailed for $530. So let's start out with the power. So it came with this highest end unit maxed out at 60 watts. So at 60 watts, it gets 15 points, for that range. The other thing I always highlight is, does it have a 4 ohm spec? And unfortunately, it does not. I didn't see that in there anywhere. It's a little bit confusing. On the back of these units, a lot of times it'll reference what you can hook up to it. It does say do not hook up when you're hooking up 2 sets of speakers, do not hook up anything less than 8 ohm. So you would think that might mean that it can handle 4 ohm, but in the spec and any documentation I read, there was no rating or no comment that it can handle a 4 ohm load. So I won't give it any points for that. But it has a lot of other features. So let's move on into phonos. So it has 1 phono, gets 10 points. And then moving into other sources, it can handle actually 4 additional sources. Unlike a lot of receivers, this has 2 auxiliaries, which most have 1. But you have 2, and then you have 2 tape inputs as well. So in total, you get 4 additional sources you can connect. Has balance, and has a volume muting switch, which was not a common feature in this time frame. So nice feature to have, for certain conditions. Has a loudness switch, then it has bass, mid, and treble. Don't often get a mid adjustment, but it does have mid control here. And then in this, all of your controls does have high-low filter, which is also a very nice feature, especially if you're doing recordings. Moving on into, let's see, it has a wood case, which is integral to this unit, was not optional. And then for AC connectivity, it had a 1 switched and 1 unswitched, so it gets 10 and 5 points each for that. And then lastly, speaker sets. It can accommodate 3 sets of speakers. So now all of those being 8 ohm, of course, but you do have the flexibility of 3 sets, which was, pretty nice feature to have. Especially if you have a collection of speakers, you could, hook all those up and switch between them. So pretty nice to be able to do that without a separate speaker switch. So looking at all total here, we came in at 175 points, which is about what I would have expected. I was surprised in the last review in the Kenwood, it actually came in over 200 points. So that was a little surprising, but this is about where I think most of the early era receivers would fall as far as points wise, and most of the say mid-range receivers from later years. So nice unit. I think if you're, so from my perspective, what's important about this particular series is the sound stage, the sound quality. And that tube-like sound, I think, is what you're going to get, what you should go for in these units. If you can, you'll need to pair it, of course, with a nice 8 ohm speaker. It does lack, that kind of capability. It lacks, having a lot of power. So if you have power-hungry speakers, not going to be the receiver for you. But if you've got a nice set of 8 ohm speakers that you enjoy, and you want to maybe up your game a little bit and improve the sound, this is the model series that I think I would look at. So, a lot to be said about these again. Oh, and if I didn't point this out earlier, there is a bulb. I just replaced these bulbs with LEDs not long ago, and one of them is out, so I'll have to go back in. It's not hard to replace them, by the way. You take off the front plate, and you got a couple of screws, and you can get behind there and then pop in the fuse lamps that are in there. So not difficult to do, but this is the kind of thing, if you're going to have any vintage gear, occasionally some kind of maintenance issue, and this is just typical of having vintage gear. So anyway, that's the review. Hope you got something out of that, and hope you enjoyed it. If you want to keep up, hit subscribe, and of course, thank you all for tuning in.